Sharia law has been operating in the UK since 2007. It has been doing so under the provisions of the 1996 Arbitration Act. There seems to be a popular misconception that Sharia law is dispensed from Sharia courts. This is in fact not the case. It is dispensed from tribunals. There is a distinction between courts and tribunals. Tribunals, unlike courts, have a limited remit to hear civil issues. Parties wishing arbitration must both agree to submit to its jurisdiction. Their judgments are legally binding. No appeals from tribunals may be made unless in relation to a point of law. According to the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal website, disputes will be so far as possible settled in accordance with prophetic practice, as recognized by schools of Islamic sacred law. The disputes heard by the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal include matters relating to forced marriages, domestic violence, and family disputes. On the 5th of July 2010, The Guardian reported that under the Sharia Civil Code, a woman's testimony is worth half that of a man's. It also reported that Sharia law, in its relation to child custody issues, is inconsistent with the interests of children. If the reports made by The Guardian are accurate, and such practices are indeed parts of Sharia law as they are being implemented by these tribunals, it would constitute a clear violation of Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Additionally, action can be brought against such tribunals with direct effect under English law through the provisions of the 1998 Human Rights Act. In relation to the issue of domestic violence, the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal website stated the following: The judges of MAT have come across many situations during the course of cases presented to them where they have had to clarify the dichotomy between Islamic laws and national cultures. For example, in cases of domestic violence, there have been instances where the offender has submitted that the said course of action was permitted under Islamic law. The judges of MAT have been efficient in sifting the myth from reality. I would like to ask the founder of the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal why it is necessary to sift myth from reality. Would you not agree that any form of chastisement in relation to women, whether physical or psychological, should be punished to the full extent of the law? I'd also like to ask, have you deliberately phrased this to be ambiguous? Or are you simply too inept to represent your position accurately? I subsequently found this video, where you go on to make one of the most feculent, repulsive speeches I have ever heard.
One of the things that we've been looking at in the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal, and I'll give you that as an example in question. We've been talking to the Crown Prosecution Service in the case of domestic violence, for example, where a woman has been beaten up by a man. Obviously, next stage, police gets involved. Next stage, police ask for statements. Next stage, court. Obviously, there's been an ABH or perhaps even GBH. God knows how far the man got. Next stage, woman withdraws a statement. I'm sorry, I got the black eye because I fell down the stairs. Can't proceed anymore. CPS, oh, we know what's happened. She's been coerced. She's been forced.
If, as proposed in this video, women are being coerced into withdrawing court cases, it would be specious to assume that similar coercion would not be used against women to force them to submit to the authority of such tribunals.
She has been pressurized into not moving forward. But what is the reality for that woman? She's actually taken a practical decision. She goes through with this issue of domestic violence, certain divorce, certain ostracization from the community that she wants to belong to and has a right to be with. So she says, well, at the end of the day, there's only a black eye. I'll live with it.
I'm sorry, but there's clearly a problem in a community where women are being ostracized for pursuing legal action or divorce in their own interests after they have been beaten.
Now CPS and the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal have entered into a long conversation, and we're still negotiating at the moment, wherein we would say that let's let the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal be charged with the issue of looking at the domestic violence of this woman. Now we know how we can apply a little bit of community pressure. This is where you give the woman the right to make that choice. Now she can go to CPS, have a case heard in court, husband in prison, community in isolation, and a certain divorce. But you've given her a choice to come to the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal, and a Muslim judge sits there and he asks her the question. Now, it's not just a question of, oh, this is an English court, now it's a matter of respect within the community. So the man, he turns up, and if he doesn't, other members of the community are brought, and they are told that this is the kind of thing that's happening. And, you know, in a sense, there is not mediation, but the man is, you know, his knuckles are tapped a little bit. Don't you do that again? And, you know, some kind of social reprimand is given by the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal. The man is deeply embarrassed, but there is a sense of cajoling that takes place which brings the woman back with the man again.
How dare you propose that a man who has beaten a woman be simply tapped on the wrist? This should not be within the remit of any tribunal. This is a matter for the courts, where the offender should be tried on indictment and sentenced accordingly. It is for this reason that I am vehemently opposed to sharia law in the UK. It is a violation of human rights. It presents a double standard in the law that provides a means to those who would seek to subvert the ends of justice simply by making use of a tribunal, like the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal, where the consequences, as stated here, would only result in a tap on the wrist.
But one thing is for sure, no one's advocating for the stoning of people, for the hanging of people, for the death penalty on the basis of Islamic Sharia law. But I will say this, I do not walk away from that, because the application of the mind of Allah has to be the greatest vindication for man to be governed by the mind of Allah. But the truth is, you can't govern with the mind of Allah to a society like we are today.
I put it to you that if the death penalty were permitted under Sharia law, you would be dancing with glee, praising your bigoted desert god.